And it looks like Whitney is ready to go. Take it away, Whitney.
All right. Well, thank you. Just going to put up a little bit of my bio here in case you don't know me. And the most important thing to know, as Taylor said, I'm the president of RCS Hospitality Group. So we only work with clubs and we work in the hospitality space. So of course, my slant always on anything from strategy to operations, to building revenue or improving your bottom line results comes from hospitality. So today we're going to talk about how amazing customer service is the key to getting customers to your door or your website even, how to bring them back and turn them into brand ambassadors, which is effectively expand your sales reach. We're going to step through why amazing service is so important, how to deliver it and bake it into your processes. Then finally, recap how this will drive revenue at your course. So when you think about this, first of all, I don't think we can really talk about this without acknowledging the times in which we're living. While golf has enjoyed a bit of resurgence in many places as one of the only activities that was allowed during the shutdowns, the overall disruption to the business model makes now the perfect time to figure out how to capitalize on newfound customers and possibly gain more new customers as you begin to stabilize and return to some sort of normal in the coming months, hopefully. We all know about the real estate surge and urban dwellers leaving cities in droves and families flocking to outdoor activities. And many people in the workforce are looking at their work-life balance, which makes golf courses and golf as an industry really a great choice for everyone. So as people are seeking these safe havens and increased family time, there's no better place than a golf course and for you to highlight that and bring those new customers in. Right now, making them feel safe. But to keep them, you have to think beyond the safety factor. Your customers are looking to feel like they really matter to you, like you care. And if you show that to them, that's when you really get the repeat business, the great testimonials. They go out into the community and tell more people about you. So I've been saying for years that creating experiences in this economy is the only real way to sustain and grow. And that's never really been more true than today, because right now, personalized service and making people feel special coming out of this pandemic will really be your competitive edge. Okay, so let me just get started. I know I could just talk about how important it is forever. So all of the hold on one second. I think I skipped over something. Okay. So all of the areas that I just showed on the last slide, marketing, golf shop, food and beverage, if you bake your processes into those areas, you can really up your game in customer service. And really what I'm talking about is changing your culture and really making amazing customer service a culture of habits at your facility. So when you think about culture, I want to be sure that you understand what I mean, because it's not just a logo. Culture is really what props your logo up. It really makes people know who you are and makes you recognizable. So culture from an organizational standpoint shows up in your values, beliefs, underlying assumptions, attitudes and behaviors, even habits that are shared by a group of people. So collectively, how your employees behave says a lot about your culture. It's the framework in which you communicate within your organization. So it might mean how you communicate internally or externally. Culture will give you a competitive edge, and I'm going to show you how today. It's basically the embodiment of your overall strategy. And one of the most important items of building and sustaining your culture is that you as the leader have to walk the talk, and you really have to be committed. When you think about your culture, I would just ask you all to be honest with yourself and think about what needs to change, because this is an ideal time. You're probably looking at your facility. You're looking at what you should be doing differently. Think about what your employees should look like. Because really everything with what we're going to talk about today starts with making a good hire. So think about your non-negotiables for hiring, which means even if somebody comes through the door that looks really great, seems like they're going to be a great employee, if they don't have 2 or 3, 4, whatever your non-negotiable items are in terms of behavior, attitude, skills, or ability, you won't hire them. So keep that in mind as we go through, because amazing customer service really is created by the people that you employ, the people interacting with your customers. So once you get through the people part, now think about the customers and customer acquisition costs, because this is really, this is such an intangible thing that we talk about with customer service. But when you think about the hard dollars that you spend in marketing or sales, events, promotions, it's expensive to get new customers. Once you have a customer, you really can't afford to lose them. And actually, I think for people out there who've had great success with repeat customers, they probably find that their marketing budget might go down a little. They continue to advertise for brand awareness, but new customers are often coming from existing customers, and that's because of the service. So if you look at companies over the last few years, and I study a lot of customers, a lot of companies, a lot of industries, customer service has become a competitive edge. Everyone's target marketing, everyone is providing personalized service. So it's really become the minimum expectation. So when you think about your marketing costs, here's another thing I just want you to think about. 25 out of 26 customers who are unhappy with something at your course will never tell you. They'll just leave. So what I'm talking about today is, how do you keep that from happening? How do you get that feedback? How do you stop those 25 people from leaving? Because if you think about what it costs you to get 25 people, it's probably a pretty large number. So if you could turn their experience, actually when they come into the property, if you could turn that into a whole sales process experience, you have a greater chance of keeping them, and then your customer service really becomes your competitive advantage. I know you probably have had a lot of people talking about marketing, and I don't know, I wish I could see all of you, because I'm wondering if Chris Strauss is out there, because he would say marketing, right? So Chris, if you're out there, hi. But he would also say that the service, the experience has to be there as well. And I would suggest to you that the service and repeat customers, or turning your loyal customers into sales ambassadors for you, can bring more revenue than your marketing plan alone. Because you can drive people to your property, but if they don't feel like you care and they matter, they're not going to come back. They won't come back. They won't tell anyone else. And that's a whole lot of marketing dollars down the drain. Real life testimonials is what really drives the customer to your facility. You think about when they're doing research, and you might put out great specials, you might have a great website, but if they see some great testimonials out there about you, that's really what's going to drive them to you. So if only 1 in 25 will actually tell you if they're dissatisfied, I just also want to share with you what's happening when you lose a customer. What's happening with those 25 people? What are they doing? Well, 68% of them leave because they believe you don't care about them. 68% because they don't feel like they matter. And usually this feeling comes from an employee with a poor attitude. And employee attitudes are a direct reflection of the culture of a company. So if you can't produce engaged employees, you can't really have amazing customer service. So as much as you focus on the customer experience, I would encourage you to focus on the hiring, recruiting, onboarding, and training experience as well. And that's how you create that motivating work environment. 14% are dissatisfied with service. So that's beyond your employees. That is maybe not being happy with what you're offering, the value proposition, your policies or procedures, or maybe just the facilities. 9% leave for a competitor, and the remainder leave for other personal reasons. So if only 9% leave for a competitor and 68% leave due to how they feel they're treated, what's going to benefit you more than amazing customer service and building it into everything you do? One of my favorite restaurateurs, Danny Meyer, if you're familiar, he has a great saying, and he says that service is the technical delivery of a product. Hospitality is how the person feels when receiving that product. I call it the feels, right? Making an emotional connection. And the best way to make that emotional connection is from the people that are interacting with your customer. So if your customers don't feel you care, there's likely an employee issue to address. I'm a big believer in treating the root cause, not just the symptoms. So I want to share with you a few things that likely come along that we've picked up in our travels. So assuming your hiring practices are solid, the other things that could be going on is an employee's getting unclear expectations. maybe poor training or ineffective training. And I would just remind you that talking is not training. Connecting until someone learns, that's actually training. Disengaged leadership, or leaders not walking the talk, meaning someone's asking something of an employee that they're not willing to do themselves, or are directly acting in the contrary. Lack of support, praise and recognition. Everybody, it's a basic human need. We all want to be recognized. We all want to be supported. And then the last thing is lacking tools and resources. I just want to tell you a funny story. When I think about a lot of these, I got called into a club one time because they thought they had some other issues. They had a group of very unhappy employees. It was really showing up in their morale and service. They were starting to have tardiness and absentee problems. And so they asked me to come in and see if I could help them figure out what was going on. You'll never believe that the root cause was because this club did not have enough forks to get through all of the special events that they did. So if they had something that had appetizers, a salad, and dessert, they didn't have enough of those forks to get through. So what would happen is it would be complete angst and a fire drill between every course, or throughout the event if it was a reception where they were using all the forks. So the dishwasher was frustrated, the servers were frustrated, the customers sometimes were waiting in line, they were yelling at the employee. So all of these things were happening literally because the forks were not there. And you'll be shocked to know the forks, a dozen forks can cost anything from $1.50 upwards of $30 or more dollars. So depending on the brand. But this club was really risking employee turnover, which can cost you 20 to 30% of a person's first year wage earnings, or a year's wage earnings. And they were really risking customer service, because imagine someone writing a review and saying, we had to wait in line at a buffet. And the root cause of that wait is because there weren't any forks, because someone was running around trying to get forks and they weren't taking the food out to the buffet, or they weren't out clearing a table, or whatever else they needed to be doing. Now, of course, sometimes it's not that simple. It's sometimes much more complex and layered. But, I really encourage you to listen to your employees, listen to them, watch them, see what they need. Be sure they have the tools and resources to remain actively engaged with your customers. Okay, so imagine if by bringing these feels, you could get a 50% return on every new customer over and over. I think that would really impact your revenue. And what a great thing if you knew that every new customer you acquire, you have likely a 50% chance that they're going to return, at least 50%, right? So if you think about this, you think about bringing these feels, there's a few ways to do it. So let me just get right into that. First of all, you should know that I think customer feedback is a gift. If you don't make it feel like it's a gift at your facility, the employees won't bring it to you. And not only will they not bring it to you, they will model the behavior that you have if you ignore or don't solicit or don't listen to feedback. You're telling them that it's not important. But I think it's a gift, because I imagine it's much like every customer walking up to me with a list that says, hey, here are the 10 things I need to make my day special. And if you do these things, you can earn my repeat business and positive testimonial on social media. I think it would be helpful. So when I think about customer feedback and when I observe customer behavior, this is what it tells me. It tells me what I can do to make them happy. So if you think about it that way, you welcome the feedback, you listen to it attentively, and then actually use it. So when you think about getting the feedback, one thing I do want to tell you, because you'll hear it over and over and over, the things that are likely to go wrong, the things that are cited the most are communication and coordination of effort. Those are the two main issues cited with poor customer service, meaning someone didn't receive the communication they needed, either to manage their expectations or communication about what to do next, where to go from one location to the other, what time you're closing, what you carry in the shop or you don't have, or someone coming out to play golf early in the morning, letting them know that you don't offer breakfast if that's the case, or you do offer breakfast and please join us. But coordination of efforts and communication, if you can hit those things, if you can hit communication and coordination of efforts, you'll hit the mark for your customers. But first, you have to understand them. If you don't understand them, it's just like a shot in the dark, because we have a tendency to think everyone is the same. All of our customers have the same needs, but actually it's a little bit different. So when you get the feedback, and I would say one of the things you could do to bake customer service into your process is to actively solicit feedback. Make sure your employees know how to do it, know how to respond. I always start with the phrase, thank you, know how to respond, and then have a mechanism and a mode of communication internally to get that information where it needs to go. Because it's really important. If someone asks for feedback, an employee gets it, and they say they're going to do something about it, if nothing happens, it's worse than if you never knew in the first place. So you really have to follow through on this feedback. And this is how you build the loyalty. This is how the customers really feel that you care. And this is when they start coming back. So making this emotional connection, obviously you can tell it takes effort. What I would say is, especially for first-time job prospects, some of your younger employees, they really need some help making these social connections or developing social skills. So here's a guide. We teach employees to look for ways to make the customer in front of you, all customers, how to make them feel welcome, important, comfortable, and understood. It sounds really simple, but it's not, because we all need something different. And that's why understanding your customer and soliciting feedback is so important. But there are a few things that you can do to make them feel special every time. So I want to just share those with you. First, be sure that these 3 critical steps of service are in place and consistently used throughout your facility: a warm welcome, anticipating needs, and a fond farewell. Again, it sounds simple, but so many companies actually, I watch them, they fail based on customer service. They spend a lot of money on brand, on inventory, on marketing, on sales efforts, on a website, apps, everything. But if when people come, they don't feel like they matter, it's really for nothing. So when you think about this, these are the 3 steps of service, and this is what it means. It doesn't mean they get greeted just when they arrive or told thank you when they leave. It means everywhere they travel in the club, everywhere they travel on your golf course, they get these 3 steps of service from every employee they interact with. So when they arrive, they get a warm welcome. The person anticipates their needs. Do they need to take their bag? Do they need some water? Maybe you live a long distance from, someone had to drive a long way. Maybe offer where the restrooms are located. When they leave that area, you extend them a fond farewell. You say, hey, thank you. I hope you enjoy your day. Then over to the golf shop, same thing, warm welcome, anticipate their needs, a fond farewell as they leave that area. When they go to the range, the same thing. If you have an attendant or if they pass an employee on the way, a warm welcome. And it could be something as simple as saying welcome, but you use eye contact, positive body language, positive words and phrases, and a fond farewell. Sometimes people think, well, I already saw them today, but you still smile, you still acknowledge them, you still offer these steps of service throughout their journey. Same thing for the snack bar, the beverage cart, the grill, anywhere your customer travels, you would offer these 3 steps of service. I'm just looking at my notes here. Okay. Anticipating customer needs and then taking action is the key step of service in this, obviously. So anticipating within each area why they're in that area, what they might need, but don't just wait for them to ask, but anticipate what they might need, offer it to them. That's how you really provide this extra level of hospitable service. And then just as a last reminder, because even though you're doing this in each individual area, if someone arrives without the initial greeting or they leave without someone telling them goodbye, you can have everything sort of fall flat. So it really has to be consistent throughout every department, also upon arrival and the final departure. So let's just talk about a few things that everyone can do, because I know these seem so simple, but I preach it every day, and everywhere you go, I would just ask you all to think right now, when was the last time you had some really great service? Really great service where you didn't have to wait, you felt special, you felt like you mattered, you didn't have to ask for anything. When you walked in, somebody looked up and paid attention to you. It doesn't really happen that often. So this is why I share this, because it really is this basic. So everyone needs something different to feel welcome and important. But there's a few things we can always do, right? We can use a customer's name frequently, but not robotically. Using someone's name is the single best way to make them feel important. If you can learn something special about them, if they're a repeat customer, or maybe they're a frequent player at your course, if you can find out something they like, or they give you little cues, right? They'll tell you a brand that they like in the shop. They'll tell you their favorite club. They'll tell you which position they like to be, which bay on the range they might like to be. These are cues. This is that list that they're giving you to make them feel special. Find a way to mark those down, write them down, point of sale systems, you can record them, but then recall it with each employee. If you don't do this and build it into your systems, what happens is your service becomes dependent upon one person or a favorite. And so then what happens, and you see it usually in places like the bar, or maybe if someone is cleaning clubs or something like that, or possibly if you have shoe service, they'll ask for someone special. But they'll say, oh, well, Johnny knows how to make my Bloody Mary. I'll just wait till he comes back. Or the minute they see that Johnny's not there, they already decide they're not going to like the Bloody Mary, and so they order something different. So it really sets up new employees for failure if you don't share this information that you know about your customers. Then the welcome piece, it's really critical when a customer enters an area that the employee takes appropriate action that signals that the customer is important. So what does this mean? This means that your employees have to get off their phones, they have to stop watching TV, they have to look up from their book, they have to stand up from the counter, maybe come around from the counter as well. What sometimes happens, especially with some of those young job prospects, they don't know this yet, so you have to teach them. They will wait until a customer walks up to them and greets them first. And that breaks just about everything, every rule that we're talking about here. It's the club's job, the course job, the employee's job to greet first. So greet first, make them feel welcome, make sure that they are your number one priority, and make sure the employees know that this is where the concept of being on stage really comes into play. Not only is it how they're behaving, it's also how their workspace looks, right? So if they walk in somewhere and there's a Starbucks cup or a bunch of Post-it notes, their book is on the counter, or their lunch is there, this signals that I'm not ready for you and you may not be welcome. I know it seems silly, but that's really a customer can't put their finger on it, but they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel welcome in that moment. This just happened to me at the airport just yesterday. I was talking with a gate agent. I was trying to get on an earlier flight, and another agent walked up, interrupted the conversation, and started asking questions unrelated to our conversation and unrelated to any customer. So imagine, this is another thing that can happen. Employees working together mistakenly think that customer is not the most important person to them in that moment. The focus remains on the customer. Those side conversations generally can happen when the customer's not there. The other piece of this is using positive words and phrases. I know I talked about it. I think I wrote an article about it and some magazines as well. But there's a reason why in hospitality we teach phrases like, yes, of course, it's my pleasure, certainly. I always try to stay away from the phrase no problem, and I realize a lot of people use it. Someone questioned me on it, and the biggest reason is it insinuates it was a problem, but it's not anymore, and it's two negative words. It starts with the word no. And the second thing is it's very off-putting to older generations. So I've heard that directly from older generations over and over. Also using the term guys when you're addressing men and women, I would just caution you on that. And then lastly, when you're thinking about making somebody feel welcome and important, I would think what is one extra thing I can do? What's 1% more I can do? Because there's always 1% more. It might be recognizing someone as a first-time golfer. And what can you do extra to make them feel really welcome? I've had, over the years, I've actually had a few people call me and tell me that they weren't treated very well first time out golfing, either as a beginning golfer or a woman trying to get into golf, who thought, well, that would be fun. And they were treated as if they were a frequent golfer and should know their way around. So I often remind people that you have to help people feel comfortable in your facility. They don't know their way around. It's very much like arriving with a blindfold on, and you have to help them find their way and help them know how to best experience your facility. So when you're thinking about comfortable and understood, basically the best thing you could do is make sure that you're ready. You're ready when they arrive. If everything looks like they expect, they know they're not going to be let down. If things look cluttered, if they look disorganized, if they look like you're not ready, it makes people start to feel a little bit uncomfortable. So we suggest having room ready or area ready standards, which means how you leave the facility, how do you leave that area or that room at the end of the day, what it looks like for opening and then throughout the day. So this is a signal to your customers that they're important, you care about them. And it's really, it's much like having a guest in your home. The things that you would do if you were having a guest in your home, you would get things ready. You would not be rushing around and vacuuming at the last minute and looking disheveled. You would time it out so that you looked prepared and ready to welcome them when they arrive. So when the understood part, listening to them, obviously, but really taking note of when they're coming to the club, who are they coming with, watching the group, looking to see what they might need. Certainly a bachelor party group might need something different from you in that day than a family playing together or a competitive group of men that are coming out on a Saturday morning. So what they want really depends on who they're playing with, when they're playing, level of golfer they are. All of these things come into play to really feel understood and comfortable. So anything you can do in those moments by understanding them to make their day special. I want to just go back to my airport story yesterday, because those words and phrases, again, it really can make a difference on feeling understood and comfortable. So the gate agent said to me yesterday, and I'm going to emphasize a few words so you can hear the negative words and phrases not to use. You can't switch your flight. There's nothing I can do to help you. And then she turns to her coworker and yells back across to him, John, how many times are we going to be asked this question before they listen to us? That's what she said. And then she turned back to me with a big eye roll and said, since COVID, the system won't let us do anything special for our elite status customers since we're on reduced capacity. That's usually the customer service we get just about everywhere. But here's a different way to say it. What if she would have said, Miss Pennell, I'm so sorry that I can't accommodate your request today. I hate to disappoint you because I see you're an elite platinum member and fly with us often, and I appreciate that. Because we're flying on reduced schedules due to COVID restrictions, some of the abilities to make changes for our VIP customers at the gate are temporarily unavailable to us. I know you're disappointed you won't get home early. There's some really great restaurants just through security where you'll be very comfortable while you wait for your original flight. Now, I realize the second one takes a little bit more time, but when you think about it from a customer perspective, how you interact with them, how your employees interact with them, the words and phrases that they use and choose really do make a difference on the experience. Once you build these key service steps into your program, the next thing is to make sure everyone knows how to handle a service recovery opportunity. Service failures happen because we have failed to meet a customer expectation. And recovery is just that, recovering from the failure. So communication really comes into this quite a bit. And I would say to you that if you're not practicing and role-playing customer service recovery situations, you're really doing your employees and yourself a disservice, because there's probably 5 to 10 common scenarios out there that happen. You're probably thinking of them right now. I wish I could stop and let you jot them down, but we're on a tight schedule today. But jot them down if you can and create scenarios that you can role play, because here's when you need to communicate. You have to be able to communicate if someone's angry. You have to be able to communicate and manage expectations in advance. Hopefully, maybe they were misinformed about something. Maybe they told someone that they weren't happy with something and it didn't get fixed, which then makes it worse. And by the way, if they find one thing wrong, if they note it and nothing happens, they will start looking for more things to be wrong. So this is why service recovery is so important. Then we have the actual communication in the recovery. That's when words and phrases become so important. That's when, knowing what you can do to handle a situation becomes important. And then when you think about this, I say if they're complaining to you, you haven't lost them yet. Right? If they're giving you the opportunity to recover, this has the potential to actually become a sales ambassador for you, because the statistics on a service recovery is that customers they'll tell twice as many people about what you did to make it right than they would the original story of what went wrong. Right? And then they become a customer for life. So these service recovery situations are really an excellent opportunity to create loyal customers if it's handled well. Okay, so how do you do it? Let me just get into this quickly. So this service recovery, it really matters how you handle it. So first of all, listening. And I would suggest to you that everyone needs lessons on listening, active listening, with open, positive body language, really being aware of facial expressions in this moment. If you are very expressive, it will show up on your face if you're thinking something negatively. But really, you're listening to understand, not just respond, not just waiting for your opportunity to stand your ground or prove them wrong. Never, ever argue with a customer. I know everyone knows that. But really listen to what it is. Paraphrase back to them what you think you understand. Be sure that you are going to handle the right thing. Apologize if they're disappointed. And you're apologizing that you let them down. A lot of people say, well, I'm not going to apologize if I didn't do anything wrong. It's not about doing something wrong, because in their eyes, you have failed their expectations. That's what's wrong. So you're apologizing for disappointing them. You're really that's the apology. Offer a solution or an alternative if you can, if it's at all possible, and then follow up with the customer. One thing I want to tell you, there's a school of economics out there, Nottingham School of Economics. They found that customers are more likely to withdraw a negative review online if you apologize instead of offering compensation. And I would say this is a non-scientific fact or study. Arguing with them online will get you absolutely nowhere. It will make it worse 100% of the time. So sometimes just an apology is all they really need, and to know that you heard them and that they matter. And then this last little piece, the follow-up. So many people miss this last one. And, when you think about it in terms of hospitality and amazing service, I always go back to Ritz-Carlton, who's the epitome of service. Everyone wants, I get so many calls saying, we want to have Ritz-Carlton service. Well, first of all, it's very expensive. It's a real commitment financially to do, but some of their key service components are not expensive. And one of them is teaching employees that if you get a customer situation, feedback, service recovery opportunity, you own it, which basically means you follow up with that customer until the situation is resolved. Ritz-Carlton recognizes how important this feedback is and what to do about it. So you could write a simple letter, a card, an email, a phone call to a customer if the situation warrants it. But taking the time just to follow up can change a situation around and turn that negative review into something positive, or at least give you an opportunity to talk about what's going on. And I would always say, thank you for telling us. My standard line is always, thank you for telling us. It's because of customer feedback that we're allowed the opportunity to get better. And we're going to use this information in our training and follow through procedures. But then do it. Don't just give them that phrase, but then actually go and do that. Okay. So we've talked about a lot. I know some things were basic. Some might be refreshers. Maybe even some were a new way to look at something. And I hope you get something out of it. Putting customer service into your process and procedures takes a little bit of work. It's not really all that different than building safety into your processes and procedures, but it has to be done with your customer in mind. So when you think about that from a business model standpoint, customer service is really at the top of everything you do. So everything should be for the benefit of the customer. It shouldn't be for the convenience of an employee. And that's sometimes what we see from a service standpoint. And anytime you put convenience over a customer needs, service is probably not going to be what you hope for. So when you think about this high cost of customer acquisition, you think about employee turnover, although now there's a really great amount of talent out there, sadly, because of what's gone on. But eventually everyone in this industry experiences turnover because we hire seasonally. Sometimes we hire students, sometimes part-time workers. But if you build it into your systems, you're not tied to one particular person. You're not tied to one great employee making everyone feel special. You have built in the systems and you hire the people to make customers feel special. So happy customers, they'll come back time and again. Right? Happy customers, and you have them, you have frequent golfers that come back over and over. They stay longer if they're happy, right? We stay where we feel comfortable, welcome, understood, and important. If they stay longer, they spend more money. If you help them use your facilities the best way you know how, right? Knowing that, hey, they have to come in and have our famous wings and a nice cold beer after their round. The best time to tell them is right before they go out. And if you want to take it even a step further, if you're on the phone with them or you're sending messages out and confirmation through your tea time system, a reminder about your food and beverage hours of operation. So they can start thinking about, oh yeah, I'm going to have breakfast there rather than stop at McDonald's on my way, or tell their wife, I'm not going to be home until a couple of hours after I play because we're going to stay for lunch, because they know that they can, and you've sent them the menu or you've invited them to do that. So they'll come back, they'll spend more money, they'll bring their friends and family, they'll spend more money, they'll tell their friends to go to your course, they'll get online and post positive testimonials. Effectively, they will become salespeople for you. And these reviews and their testimonial in the community expand your sales reach. It increases the likelihood of booking a tea time with you over your competitor. Okay. Even I will say if the price is higher, because we will go places where we feel like we matter more than we will go somewhere just to save a buck. I promise. Think about your own interactions, your own decisions. That's what you do. And then once they trust you, once you do these things, it's built in. It's consistent every time. Everyone makes them feel special. They look forward to coming there. They feel great after having been there. They trust you. They start caring about you too. And that's really when everything gets great. That's why I say the magic really happens. That's when they want to buy from you. That's when they look for ways to come to your course. That's when they look for ways to help you get more customers. So I hope that you got something new or different, or like I said, maybe a refresher out of today. I think we have some time for some questions. So as you're thinking about your questions, if you saw anything in these slides that were of interest to you, if you don't already have them through RevCon or through the NGCOA, because I know they're on top of things, you can connect with us through our website. There's an events tab on there. Just click on download the presentation and you'll be able to access this as a PDF. So I'll take this down so I can take a look at everyone again.
Well, hi, Whitney.
Hi.
Well, thank you. And as always, you are right on time. So very, very good. We've actually got time for a couple questions, and we're certainly going to take advantage of you again this afternoon with another session. We really appreciate that. So I got a couple. We'll just do a couple rapid fires here for a little change of pace. You
okay.
Ready?
I'll try.
So here we go. We're going to definitely try to put you on the spot. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Is the customer always right?
The customer is always the customer, which makes them right. So look, I've said in my training seminars that no, I mean, obviously sometimes the customer does things, they're not always right when they say something to you. But their perception is what matters. They're the customer, their perception is right in their mind, and therefore that makes them right when we're trying to provide a service to them.
Excellent. Okay. We don't have any trick questions in here. What do you think about secret shoppers?
I think secret shoppers can be very valuable if you give them standards that you use, the standards you want them to look for. And, you know, and the other thing I would just say, because we do secret shopping sometimes, and if you tell one person, you've told all of your employees, I'll just tell you that. So you've really got to be careful about who knows anyone is coming to do the secret shop. The best thing is, you know, one person deals with the shoppers, no one else knows, and just be sure that you are clear on what you're trying to get out of the experience and where they should go. You know, maybe questions they might even want to ask if they're not a professional shopper necessarily. You know, we sometimes put certain questions in that will give us some good information, but yeah, I think they can be beneficial.
Okay, we've got time for one more, all right? Okay. And you might recognize who this one came from. So from Renee, how do you address the toxic employee, or that, you know, how do you handle those situations?
Well, now you're really putting me on the spot. I think everyone should have their service standards. They should have their strategy, their mission statement, what they're trying to accomplish. If they have someone who cannot work within that structure, and you've coached them and you've trained them and you've given them the resources and they're not getting there, then it's time to hold them accountable, and you might have to make a tough decision or repurpose them, which is a nice way of saying move them to a different area, maybe that they will be less toxic.
I'm going to write down repurpose. That's a good word. But now, Whitney, thank you so much for your time. I suspect we're going to see Mr. Wall. There he is. And Whitney, do you have any last thoughts here before we move on? And we really thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. I just, you know, I know I get a little excited about this because that's what I do, but I hope everybody really focuses in on the service, because it's such an easy, low cost way to really boost their bottom line and bring in new customers and more revenue.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.